Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. And we do this every week. We try not to do it too often. Thank you so much, all of you who have joined us for these weekly updates. We're always thankful that you do, and very grateful for every one of you that are sharing the link, that are encouraging others to join us. We certainly appreciate that, and are really thankful for those of you that take the time to like and subscribe and also share. We've had quite a few that have done that, and this has really grown, so we're really thankful for that. And I do believe that we have this obligation. The scripture is really clear that we are to watch, therefore, and pray. So it's not just pray, but to watch, therefore, and pray. And of course, we do these from the 10,000-foot view. We try to take these events that are occurring on the earth through a biblical, scriptural lens, so that we can look at them through the lens, if you will, of scriptural prophecy and see how things are unfolding in accordance to the scripture. And of course, our hearts are for those that are in harm's way and in difficult places. So please continue to pray and intercede for those that are finding themselves in difficult spots. And this is a time for compassion and for mercy and for love, for us to cry out for those that are in impending judgment. So something that we have to be aware of as believers in this hour. And we know that all the more as we see the day approaching, we must exhort and encourage one another. Always good to see all of you here on the chat with us. Thank you for joining us from all over the earth. When I look at the dots, they show where everyone is coming from, and you just go, wow, it's just all over the earth. So thank you for those of you that are just on the four corners, wherever you may be. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always an honor and a privilege to sit with you, and we're thankful for it. And we do have a website that we, of course, share every week. And for those that are new, since we do have quite a few that are joining us, thank you for your patience, those that are veterans. And we just want to share this. Remnantwatch.com is the website that we post all the videos, all the topics that we discuss, all the articles. And you'll always notice there's a banner on the top right here. And that banner on the top will always bring you to the latest weekly news update. So just so you know that's just kind of an inside thing, so you know that. And we do have a search bar here for you if you want to search back on any of the broadcasts, try to find the articles we refer to. This will help you find them. So if you're watching an older broadcast and are saying, hey, where's that article? It's not on the front page anymore. Just use the search bar. It'll find it for you, and you can dig it out. So I know some folks are going back to previous broadcasts because you're seeing that there are things that we saw in advance, and maybe now you're catching up, and that's a good thing. We want to track these things. We want to keep an eye on what's going on so that, as we like to say, we can be informed without being overwhelmed. When you're overwhelmed, the enemy can make you make foolish choices. Knee-jerk reactions are common when people are overwhelmed, and that generally is, frankly, some of the worst decisions you've ever made in your life were done with knee-jerk. So that's something that we all have to be very careful with. And on that note, let's get into the news. And tonight's top story we're tracking, of course, is the emerging threats that are starting to coalesce in this hour. And of course, while there are a lot of individual stories that are drawing a tremendous amount of attention, this is what tops the stories for us tonight, as a new quartet of chaos threatens America. Now, today is the 23rd day of September in the Gregorian calendar, and just so happens to be the culmination of the 7 years from the sign in the heavens, if you all remember. So this is an ominous sign to show up on this day. A new quartet of chaos threatens America, and I do believe this is spiritual. Okay, Anthony Blinken, America's Secretary of State, has basically starting to assess these things in his visit to Europe. One of the reasons why that Vladimir Putin is able to continue this aggression is because of the provisions of support of the People's Republic of China, he said. And of course, There's a lot of truth to that. One of the things that we're all watching right now is a coalition growing. These revelations and the various things, you can read about this if you like, essentially showing that these ties between China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia are strengthening. This is a common occurrence, folks. It's known as a Machiavellian technique. And there's an old Middle East saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So as long as they have a common enemy, they can unite. They will remember their differences later. Right now, they're going to stand up together against the 800-pound gorilla. That's a bad sign, folks. And if you're in the West, that should be something that you may take note of and begin to, again, pray and ask Elohim where you belong in this moment, because it is a dangerous time. And and this story actually came out, I'm not 100% sure we shared it, but even if we did, I really wanted to share it again because it again portends the direction the winds are blowing and the flow of that blow. And those that are awake to this, I know a lot of you guys are really, really waking up to this. So I just want to reaffirm this and just kind of remind you that 159 participants will adopt the new global payment system. This is something that we've been talking about around our table for some time, that once this gets implemented, it will be a fast collapse for other currencies. I don't think it's just going to affect the US dollar. I think it's going to affect others as well. But after recent rumbling surface of how many nations would embrace the impending BRICS pay system, the bloc has confirmed 159 participants are set to adopt the new payment system. And this is very critical because anything that allows those who are, well, frankly, not happy with the Western system to go around it will invite them. And that doesn't just include countries, that also includes states. I think there's something over 20 states in the United States that applied to BRICS as well. I think Texas was one of them. So there's a lot of disintegration, devolution that is going on right in front of us. And it's hard for people to see it because we're so used to driving through construction. You know what I mean? We're driving, under construction. We're so used to it, we're not even noticing that they are literally remaking almost every part of your world, and it isn't for the better. So there's a lot of things that are really, really concerning. And one of the things that has become quite normal, and something that I frankly think is the opposite direction that the remnant need to be going. This is so disrespectful when we see this kind of thing. And in 2016, if you remember, we heard tons and tons about spying and Spygate. Remember that? Just every which way you turned, and we're talking about that. Well, here we go again, folks, with this activity. And frankly, given some of the information that we now have received since then, it's pretty believable that folks feel entitled to do that. And look at this. The FBI says Iran. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because remember that coalition we just talked about. So if it's Iran, it's also those three other countries, right? And FBI says Iran sent hacked Trump information to Biden campaign staffers. Now, how many know that if you're about to go to war or thinking about going to war with the West, you probably want the weakest hand at the helm? Okay, Iranian hackers sent sensitive information stolen from the Trump campaign to President Joe Biden's campaign earlier this summer, U.S. investigators said on Wednesday. So this is not just somebody, just rumors. This is coming from U.S. investigators and being reported by Politico. So we're back to high school here, folks. We're playing high school games and silly games. You know what happens when people play silly games? They win silly prizes. And so this is very disconcerting, to say the least. And it's the kind of activity that I think we can expect to see going forward with all the hacking and cybersecurity issues that are happening in this hour. I really think we need to all be very sober and vigilant about that whole topic, because even that at that level, their information, their campaigns, their things get hacked and so forth. Again, it's a world built on sand, literally silicone. So there's that. And so we're going to continue to see more and more saber rattling and more conflict development, because after all, they need conflict to cover their tracks. Conflict gives them the big giant eraser. This is why the U.S. is close to sending $567 million in immediate security aid to Taiwan. Didn't they just say that these 4 countries were all banded together, and it's probably not a really great idea to go messing with that? Nope, ain't got no problems with that. U.S. is in the final stages of sending almost $570 million in security assistance to Taiwan, the largest such package to date, and one sure to frustrate China, according to multiple congressional aides and a U.S. official. So that sounds like a great idea, right? The administration will use this fastest tool available to deliver the aid, directly shipping its own stocks, a process it's heavily relied on to support Ukraine's self-defense. So here we go. And so using the same Ukraine package, because that's worked, gosh, so well, right? We got great reports on how that's worked fabulously, right, guys? The old Ukraine maneuver. And I mean, it's cooking up, and there's a lot of little things happening that are making me go, right? Making me wonder what's really happening. Excuse me. U.S. is moving soldiers to Alaska island, and Russian military activity increase is in the area. So this, I don't know if you know this, but the U.S. and Alaska as territories really aren't very far apart in the north. So the U.S. military has moved about 130 soldiers along with mobile rocket launchers to a desolate island in the Aleutian chain of western Alaska amid a recent increase in Russian military planes and vessels approaching the American territory. So I don't know if you know this, but this is starting to become a multi-front, spread your forces type of thing. These are vast areas that are trying to be covered. Just saying. I don't think that blanket's going to work. Covering is going to become a real big issue real soon here. And those that are flirting with that will find that out. And so again, in the meantime, what do we have going on inside the country? Well, the FBI is reporting that it has disrupted major Chinese hacking operation that threatened U.S. critical infrastructure. Imagine that. Can't imagine why they'd be motivated to do that. Can you imagine a reason why they might be motivated to do stuff like this? The FBI has used a court order to seize control of a network of hundreds of thousands of hacked internet routers and other devices the Chinese government link hackers were using to threaten critical infrastructure in the U.S. and overseas. Well, it's about time. I'm glad they're doing this, but it doesn't make me surprised to see it. FBI Christopher Wray said on Wednesday, it's just one round in a much longer fight. Okay. Wray said in a speech at the Aspen Cyber Summit in Washington, D.C., the Chinese government is going to continue to target your organizations and your critical infrastructure. They're the boogeyman. Just remember that. Not us, not any of our not any of our departments, not any of our, we love you too, dear. Not any of our our things. No. In case you're wondering who the bad guy is, we'll be happy to tell you who the bad guy is. We'll paint the picture, put the bullseye right on their forehead, and let you know where to aim your gun. It's pretty obvious that they're, one of the things needed to bring about what they're trying to do is a very effective propaganda war. So this is why it's so important for us to take a step back at some of these and watch where they're taking you. So where are these leaders taking you? You ever wonder that? Don't you ever go, well, where are we going if we follow you? Where do we end up? That's a great question to ask before you go following, don't you think? And America, I believe, is being led right off a cliff. I really do believe that. I believe that that this doesn't end well. And also, I do believe that it's going to continue to be destructive throughout the entire world. And so this is really, really a dangerous moment because we don't really know what's the next thing that's going to blow up, do we? I mean, look at these guys. Do you think they were standing around expecting it to happen that day and a blast from an attack? Now, of course, that's an arms depot, so maybe so. But how many people live within reach of military bases and aren't really thinking about them being a military target until they go up in smoke, right? Until this happens. So I think that we're all suddenly realizing, like, wait a minute, I need to look around. Wait a minute, am I a human shield? Right? A Ukrainian drone attack on a large Russian weapons depot caused a blast that was picked up by earthquake monitoring stations in one of the biggest strikes in Moscow's military arsenal since the war began. And pro-Russian military bloggers said Ukraine struck an arsenal for the storage of missiles, ammunition, and explosives of Toropets, a historic town more than 300 miles north of Ukraine and about 200 miles or 230 miles west of Moscow. So, boom, one day they were doing fine. The next day, kaboom. Kaboom. We're doing kabooms now. We've reached kaboom time, folks. Suddenlies and a lot of disruption. And how many know that, it's also fall. It's also time of pruning. When a branch is clipped, it falls quick. So we are clear. So it's that time. And I do believe that we're going to see more of that. This is a difficult moment. All right. And now we're seeing this kind of, remember I told you, I just said, they can't really pull this off without a propaganda war. Okay. They need propaganda, folks. All right. And pro-Putin TV channel simulates devastating nuclear strike. Look at this. On London, in video showing city being wiped out in fireball that would instantly vaporize hundreds of thousands. A devastating nuclear strike on London causing 850,000 deaths with 2 million injured has been simulated by a staunchly pro-Putin propaganda TV channel. Now, isn't it interesting that when it's coming from Russia, they call it a propaganda TV channel? That's funny. So they do know what that is, and they do know how to label something a propaganda TV channel. Funny how they never label anything else a propaganda TV channel. Anybody else notice that? As I do. All right, so broadcasting the 4-minute video with an English commentary appears to be the latest move in a concerted campaign to scare Britain from giving permission to Ukraine to allow Storm Shadow missiles to hit targets inside of Russia. Well, that's one way to look at it. Yeah, you should be scared, because if you are doing that and you declare war, then you should know what you're getting into. So maybe that's just full disclosure, right? But I do think that this is all heating up. And remember that these messages of propaganda, these threats, think backyard, think bullies, think schoolyard. What happens first? The mouth, the threats, the oh yeah, come on. I mean, fill in the blanks. I mean, every generation they got different words, but it's the same thing, right? And it's the pushing and the shoving happens, right? The name calling, the insults, and the ooh, you're gonna let them call you that, and all that nonsense. The next thing you know, they're fighting. Okay. And there's the person that's fighting and the instigators. My mom was to grab both the people that were fighting and the instigators, and you all got in trouble. Right? I mean, no, we got to grab a few people that are fighting and their instigators by the ear, right? Take them to the corner and say, this is not solving nothing, okay? It's almost like they never had a parent that told them fighting doesn't solve anything. Apparently, they didn't get that message. So, unfortunately, a lot of our headlines have to do with, what the king told us to look for, war and rumors of war. Only it ain't a rumor no more. How about that, folks? Where's the rumor part? The rumor's over. U.S. announces it's sending troops to the Middle East and warns Americans to leave Lebanon. Once again, they telegraphed their punch. Okay. Oh, what a shock. They're all going to the Middle East. Who look surprised, everybody. Quick, look surprised. And this is coming out on what date? The U.S. is sending troops to the Middle East in response to the surge in violence between Israel and Hezbollah, and as the region teeters on the edge of all-out war. The Pentagon announced on Monday that additional service members would be deployed to join the 40,000. How many knew that was there? Did you know that? Did you know that there were 40,000 receiving their pay elsewhere? Look at this. Already stationed in the region along with a dozen warships and fighter jet squadrons. So they're not sending. That looks like they already sent. They're adding to what they already sent. I love how they put these things. We're just sending. we're gonna send some troops. How many are there? 40,000. You just now sending them? It sounds to me like you already sent them. Sounds like they've been there a while. By the way, it's a lot of revenue that's now being spent in foreign ports and foreign places too. It's another factor. You have 40,000 people every 2 weeks, and they're supporting other things. That doesn't help. Those are all things that add up, folks. All of it adds up. Believe me, I know a few towns that wouldn't mind having all those 40,000 spending their, revenue there. But there's probably a few places that would love that. So we got to be careful with that. And the Pentagon is worried that Israel is close to launching. This is from the Wall Street Journal. They are announcing this. Now, again, some of it is news. Some of it is announcement, right? Some of it is news and some of it is announcement. We have to learn to discern between the two, because sometimes they're just simply programming you. They're acting as if it's news. They investigated. No, they didn't. They just wrote it out, and they're telling you what the next act of the play is. A wave of exploding electronic devices used by Hezbollah members could be preload to attack. And I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Israel very cleverly hid explosives in pagers and other electronic devices. You saw that man just literally go down to the ground. There were thousands of similar attacks where the devices simultaneously exploded and carried by, of course, they call them militants. I don't know. We have no way of verifying that. But according to this report, I guess anybody with the pagers they were all militants. That's the deal. And they're concerned about a potential ground war erupting in southern Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah. So again, folks, you remember that there are those who believe, and I am starting to wonder if they might not be right, that there are forces trying to start literally World War III before the election in order to cancel it, especially if the rumor is that they're going to lose it and they can't cheat, then they'd rather it not happen. And so they're really, really trying hard, guys, to start this conflagration like really quickly. And as a matter of fact, again, more and more things are coming out. They're very foreboding. Again, look at the date, September 23rd. We've completed the 7 years since the sign. Iran warns Israel of dangerous consequences of Lebanon strikes. Iran's foreign minister warned Israel on Monday of dangerous consequences following deadly strikes on Hezbollah strongholds in Lebanon. Foreign minister spokesman Nasser Kanani called the Israeli strikes insane and warned of the dangerous consequences of the Zionist new adventure. Israel on Monday launched a wave of airstrikes targeting Iran-backed Hezbollah forces in southern Lebanon, killing at least 182 people, including children, according to Lebanon's health ministry. The attacks marked the largest escalation of violence between Hezbollah and Israel since the war in the Gaza Strip erupted on October 7th. So what are we seeing here is just, again, more escalation. So all efforts toward de-escalation have failed. Why? Because they absolutely need this conflict. Their systems, let's put it to you this way, their billions, their trillions, their money is at stake. And for the love of it, what will they do? For the love of money, what will people do? They will sell you down the river so they can do their own things. They will compromise every corner they can. They won't care that they're throwing families into a ditch. They won't care what they're doing to who they're doing it, so long as they get the money. They got to get the money, right? This is a very dangerous time, folks. For the love of mammon is the root of all evil. When Lebanon sees this deadly conflict, and you know that they're seething now. So this is the way this has been, and now it's heating up super hot. Lebanon sees deadliest a day of conflict since 2006. Israeli strikes kill 492. So that number is now up. Okay, look at this, folks. Oh boy. Israeli strikes Monday on Lebanon killed more than 490 people. That number has now been revised, including more than 90 women and children, Lebanese authorities said, in the deadliest barrage since the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war. The Israeli military warned residents in southern and eastern Lebanon to evacuate ahead of its widening air campaign against Hezbollah. And of course, I was talking with my brother earlier today, and we're lamenting all of the death and destruction. One of the 10 signs we were given in 2014 was major loss of life in the Middle East. And it's one thing to know it's coming. It's another thing to see it unfold in front of your face. It's a very sobering moment. And I still, to this day, cannot figure out what value a bomb has. And I don't think it's hard to imagine that this is the sentiment that is held by those in Lebanon. And of course, Hezbollah is saying all red lines have been crossed and there will be a devastating response to Israel's declaration of war. So now, oh man, now they're not listening to reason now. Even though a lot of people out there don't seem to realize yet, we're watching history in the making. Israel and Hezbollah have both been preparing for a final showdown for many years, and now here we are. Okay, here we are, folks. So this is not a new thing. They've been saber rattling this for a while. When I was living in northern Israel, you could feel the buildup was not because of anything going on in Syria. That buildup was for a future conflict, and we called it out in 2015. And now here's that future conflict. One of the things he told me before I left is that he was going to bring a purge. Here we go, folks. And now they're killing commanders. Of course, this is the justification for these things. So this justifies whatever other collateral damage was done. It doesn't matter because they can justify it this way. Israel launched the rarest airstrike. And I don't think it doesn't matter which side does this, by the way. I do not care. I do not understand this. I am not anybody's side, just so we're clear. Israel launched a rare airstrike that killed a senior Hezbollah military official in a densely populated Beirut neighborhood on Friday. It was the deadliest strike on Lebanon's capital in decades. So it's everywhere. They're definitely letting know, and they're stoking the fight, right? So they're saying, "Ooh, you're gonna let them do that to you? Oh my goodness!" Right? And so, sure enough, what happens? What do you think happens? It's not hard. It was easy. That was an easy call, right? That was simple. What do you think they're gonna do? Oh, I don't know. Maybe retaliate. Hezbollah sends over 150 rockets. Okay? Does it matter? Nah. Not really. Hezbollah fired its deepest barrage into Israel since the beginning of the current war with 4 rounds of over 150 rockets, cruise missiles, and drones fired into the Jezreel Valley in early mornings of Sunday morning, and IDF confirmed. So this conflict has a long time written on it. And I think it is... like you go to the fireworks on the 4th of July and they give you the short ones. They give you the slow buildup. And then finally they get to crescendo. We're not at crescendo yet. We're not even close. But we're warming up. And it does look dicey. It looks real dicey. And so Russia is responding in a unique way. This is a really interesting story when you really think about it, because Russia is arming Ansar Allah against Israel in response to the U.S. arming of Ukraine. So this is a case of, turnabout is fair play. And so this is the Houthis, of course, that threatened and shot a hypersonic missile into Israel. And so, and also did damage to the USS Roosevelt, I believe, and the Abraham Lincoln. That is another development that's now coming out, is that they're actively supporting the Houthi rebels, as they're calling them, right? And this is turning into a really complex, multi-layered conflict. And again, that doesn't add in. That's just the kinetic part of it. And it's getting more and more difficult. I mean, can you imagine this, guys? I mean, pager bombs. You had to think about that like a long time in advance. You had to plot that. Israel hid bombs in Hezbollah's pagers at a factory and send coded message. Okay, that's how they did it. They had pre-done this. Wow. So that makes all communication devices suspicious, and they started suspending this, but it didn't matter. They'd already done it. Now you got to wonder, what else did they do that with, right? I mean, talk about some tactics, man. That is an interesting tactic indeed. Who saw that coming? Who saw that coming, right? Wow. What a world we're living in. And we're seeing more and more evidences throughout the earth that they're preparing for even greater conflict. So along the border with Norway and Russia, they're detecting greater levels of radiation. And some are speculating that Russia's preparing for increasing their firepower, right? And doing more damage. Radiation levels mysteriously are spiking along Norway's border with Russia, as its claimed activity has been seen at test sites for Putin's flying Chernobyl nuclear missile. Traces of radioactive cesium-137 has been measured on Norway's border with Russia. It was real today. The radiation levels are clearly higher than normal, authorities have said, and the cause of the mystery spike is unknown. Dun, dun, dun. Stay tuned. We will reveal the mystery soon. In the meantime, we'll tell you all about Hollywood moguls that are falling. Did we not warn you that the stars would fall from the heavens and all the powers of the heavens would be shaken? Oh my, the things that we're getting to watch right now. And speaking of shaking, what's going on with the shaking? What is happening with the shaking? There's a lot of shake and bake going on. Quit the shaking and the bacon. What's with the Texas? Texas is shaking. Oh my, I love Texas. I love my brethren in Texas. May the barakah be upon Texas and all those who call upon the name of Yahuwah in Texas. Texas is shaken by earthquake, among the biggest in state's history. Uh-oh. That's unprecedented. We like the biggest or the last or the most unprecedented. We watch out for stuff like that, right? Yeah, don't sleep on your cell phone or near it. That's not a good idea. Good call, brother. Texans were rocked by a notable 5.1 magnitude earthquake. Again, doesn't happen. One of the strongest in the state's history. Texas not exactly known. I mean, I'm 60 years old, and Texas is not known for earthquakes. Okay, I mean, just doesn't something not a headline you hear. Okay, the quake struck in Martin County, about 21 miles southwest of Ackerley, shortly before 7:50 p.m. It was initially graded 4.8 on the magnitude scale, with a depth of 3 miles, according to Technish channel KXAS, but later was upgraded. That's unusual. Usually they go the other way. So they upgraded it to 5.1. That's interesting. So there's shaking and baking going on in Texas. And, well, we shouldn't be surprised. And who knows what's going on underground, right? I mean, we might find out later on there's some other war things going on there. Who knows? Stay tuned. Stay tuned, folks. I mean, at this point, I almost am not surprised by the things that come out. Some of you are getting a little numb with me, like, of course, sure, why not? Just amazing. Hey, here's another one of those once in a, never happens. This never happens. I want you to think about this, guys. How often have we seen this type of headline in the last, year and a half? Just because we poke fun at these, right? So now this has become kind of like the running joke. So here we are again with another unprecedented, once in a 1,000 year. Come on, guys. Come on. How many times have we seen this? Once in a 1,000 year rainfall event. Oh my goodness. From an unnamed storm floods homes. Unnamed storm. They didn't even have time to name it. It was so big and so strong and so powerful. They were running so much. They couldn't even put a name on an unnamed storm. Oh, this one we had time to name it. It just dropped a lot of rain. How about heavy rain? We'll name it heavy rain. Unnamed storm floods homes and forces rescues in North Carolina. That part's not funny, right? That's serious stuff. Look at this. And if this is being manipulated, somebody's responsible for a lot of property damage. Just saying. Floodwater surges into homes, stranded vehicles, and forced water rescues in coastal North Carolina on Monday after a tropical storm-like system dumped historic amounts of rain in a matter of hours. This keeps happening, guys. We keep seeing this. Did you guys remember the story about the Sahara Desert? Is like there's rivers of water running through the Sahara. There's more flooding going on now. There's like tons of stories of flooding that continue to happen. So this is kind of interesting to watch, all of the weather repercussions. And I wonder if some things are being turned off. So some people think there's a lot of manipulation, but I'm starting to wonder if the manipulation is actually less. And this is like the reaction, like you've let go, you were pulling on it and you let go, and now it's reacting in a weird way, like weather is kind of going all over the place. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are kind of unusual. Then there's things that we do expect. So if you're in Florida or the West or the East Coast, we're not shocked by hurricanes, right? The hurricane forecast that they've got coming up this week. People along the Florida Panhandle and Big Bend region and much of the eastern Gulf Coast need to complete preparations for hurricane impacts. And that's coming in just before our celebration here on the Zadok Enoch priestly calendar of Yom Kippur. So that's kind of interesting. But yep, this is what's coming in. It's expected to make landfall and hit right in here in the Gulf Coast, if you will, of Florida and up into the Panhandle area. That obviously could change, so we have to keep an eye on that. Those of you who are in the path of that. I think what we all saw with these storms, this is not the necessarily, although it could be, very devastating to be in the impact zone, right? So the wind impact zones are devastating. But what we also saw from these storms, as I just shared, is the amount of rainfall. We watched one of these storms literally like stop over Florida and Georgia. Remember that, guys? And South Carolina. And it just dumped and it wouldn't move. So that's the danger here, is that it may settle over certain areas and really bring in already, into areas that are already pretty saturated, and you bring in a consistent amount of water, we may be looking at different problems than just the wind and the rain. So just something to consider as we move forward. And there are continuing these narratives, folks. We continue to see headlines like this. Virus linked to rare paralyzing illness in children could spike in the U.S. as wastewater data suggests. Elevated levels of enterovirus D68 in sewage samples have pediatricians on alert. This is, by the way, something we need to be very concerned about. People are drinking wastewater that's been recycled, and they are not necessarily removing everything from it. Wastewater samples have shown elevated levels of respiratory virus that has been linked to paralysis in some children. Let's drink some tap water, sparking concerns about potentially rising cases in the U.S., according to a report from Wastewater Scan. I can't even begin to unpack this report if you really start to look at it, not only what it's implying, but the potential dangers and risks that people are exposing themselves to because they bought into a lie and a form of lifestyle that is not only contrary to the scripture, but is highly detrimental to their health. And so these are the repercussions of the trade-off that people made so that they could live in the concrete jungles. And I really think I'm so grateful for all of you that are figuring it out and are making new choices. We continue to see recalls and things like this, and I think it continues to put a little bit of fear in the food chain, if you will, and we've been watching this element as well. And on the one hand, you think, oh, it's just better reporting, but is it? Lactite milk recall in 27 states for potential chases of almonds not included on the labels. No illness or allergic reactions have been reported from consuming the product, but we just thought that we should let you know that 27 states, that we look at the size of this headline. And then but there's no illness or allergic reactions. Just another recall. Just like was this a recall space holder? This is we didn't have a really good recall this week, but we want to keep you guys sort of recall minded. We want to hold the recall spot. I don't know. I really think that this is a sort of a psyop to make you very, very uncomfortable with certain elements. And again, bring a lot of anxiety into our lives and things that we can't control. And so those of you that are finding yourself in a spot where you're going, my goodness, what do I do? Just begin to pray, ask for help, ask the Most High to give you direction, and he will direct your steps. That's what he says. He said, trust in him with all your heart, lean not upon your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your steps. And so trust him and ask new questions. Some of you need to ask new questions. We're certainly asking new questions. How many know there's a lot of people asking questions of AI and they're getting some weird answers? How many know that? And we've been warning about AI, artificial intelligence, or alien invasion. I'm not sure which it is. It looks like a little bit of both. And now, of course, they've come out with the ability to create deepfakes, which we knew they were aiming at anyway. This gives you plausible deniability on any video that comes out. So if it does happen to show some, I don't know, P. Diddy level nefarious activity, well, you can deny it. You can say, oh, no, that's a deep fake. So this has been coming in since 2016. And so this is a very, very odd manifestation. But the panic over new chat GPT that reasons as expert warns of terror AI raids, listen to this, that steal cash from huge numbers of victims. Experts have predicted a shocking rise in the amount of money lost to AI scams. Now, what you may not know, and that I'm aware of because I happen to be privy to some of the emails that are coming out for marketers, and I'm on the cutting edge of some of that. And they use artificial intelligence and a lot of chatbots for a lot of things. So this report is correct. And it's going to get worse because they're selling literal platforms to create these. Artificial intelligence chatbots are everywhere, and they're able to make difficult jobs much easier for millions of people. As a matter of fact, businesses are signing up by the thousands every day to employ these chatbots to do simple tasks that they otherwise would pay people to do. So, folks, you know that they were talking about that AI takeover? Well, it's literally happening. This month, AI showed off its new ChatGPT 01 model, which is capable of thinking and reasoning. We've developed a new series of AI models designed to spend more time thinking before they respond. They can reason through complex tasks and solve harder problems than previous models in science, coding, and math. And you may think, ooh, that's awesome. Well, it can be if it doesn't go autonomous. It's the latest major advancement to ChatGPT since the AI chatbot first launched in late 2022. So they just updated it. And of course, what's it being used for? Who's taking advantage of it? Who's making the most of it? A huge win for who? So they're not arming the good guys. Who are they arming? And what did Mashiach warn us about? He said in Matthew chapter 6, lay not for yourselves treasures here on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt. And what else did he say would happen? He said thieves would break through and steal. This is a very dangerous moment, folks. And we unfortunately have a lot of things that are stealing our confidence. And I got to say that every time I've got to report one of these reports, it really kind of disappoints me. But at the same time, it's a reflection of the things that happen when, the sort of the bloom is coming off the rose. And we are all those of you that are part of the remnant, that are part of the household of faith, that are awakening to the lies and the deceit that has been perpetrated for thousands of years, really. And we're all waking up because we can compare notes like never before. So what the enemy meant for evil, the Most High has turned for good. But this is also causing a major backlash because now things that people were getting away with, which they never got caught for, they're not getting away with it anymore. Look at this. Stephen Lawson dismissed from a Dallas church following an inappropriate relationship. This keeps happening, folks. Pastor of Trinity Bible Church of Dallas has been removed from his position at the church following in a inappropriate relationship. And how many want to bet that their digital trail was part of what got them caught? Folks, that we've entered a new time. But nothing bothers me more. And I mean, we see those types of stories all the time, right, guys? And unfortunately, that is becoming more common. But one that I really, I told Mindy about this. I said, what in the world is going on here? And this really gets to me. This is one of those that gets under my skin in a sort of extra special way. Look at this. A Brighton church pastor arrested, fired after camera found. Here we go again, folks. Somebody with a camera. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, somebody with a camera. Brighton leader accused of putting a hidden camera in a bathroom. And we're literally like not sure whether to laugh or scream or pull our hair out. Why do you want to watch someone go to the bathroom? That's just it's just another level of stupid. Will Johnson, 37, was the worship pastor director of the 242 community churches Brighton location. And the church is also campuses in Ann Arbor, Lansing, Livonia, Monroe, Saginaw, and Taylor. Wow. Okay. And so non-public unisex bathroom. There you go. Sure. Why not? I don't even want to read this. I'm beyond. It just gets me so. Wow. Remember I told you some people feel entitled. They just don't have any problem with privacy issues. Okay. Oh yeah. No, they're not ministers. They're sinisters. It's a very sinister thing to do. And I'm shocked. I don't even know how to react to some of this, folks, because it's things that, like, when Elohim says such a thing never even came into my mind. That's how I feel. Like, how did that even come into your mind? How did you even think of such a thing? Okay. So I can't explain it. No one can justify such a thing. And this whole camera fetish that people have gotten into is really out of hand. Thankfully, guys, and just so you know this, there are remedies. There are, I really should have found one, but they are out there where there's apps and there's detectors. So if you travel a lot, or if you suspect, if you're getting a little suspicious, grab one of those detectors. They're fairly inexpensive. You can find them on Amazon, Walmart, anywhere, right? And get one of those, and then you can detect if you go into like public bathrooms, or if you're a little suspicious, if you're getting creepy feeling, okay, trust that intuition. You might find people have found in Airbnbs, in like in this case, public bathrooms and other things, and so catch that crook, get your app out. And if you find that camera and find out who put it there. So this kind of stuff is bad. And when it's happening in people's bathrooms, like I saw a video online where a woman, this was a while back, but she was using one of these devices, and it changes a certain color. It changes the light, and it detects it. And so she found it and was in her bathroom, in the Airbnb bathroom. Like, wow. So that's beyond disturbing. I mean, I'm sorry. I get security. I get that. I get, you got maybe a camera outside, for visitors, or a camera. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of get it. I understand that people needed those for certain reasons, but we can all agree that is just way, way, way crazy. Okay. Way crazy and very disturbing. And I think a reflection of the spirits that they are dealing with and that are coursing through these places, folks, especially with all these false altars. If you do any kind of homework in the altars and how they are to be built according to the scripture, every one of these are illegal, and they are drawing in spirits and not good ones. Speaking of things being drawn in, how many know that we're finding out the more we look? And I know that you guys are mostly awake. Most of you folks are pretty sharp, but there's still people coming in every day. So I'm letting you all know that what we have found over the last many years now, many, many people you'll find over here sitting with us in the chat and hanging out with the Remnant are already hip to the dangers of what's going on in the food supply And scientists are figuring out just how many chemicals enter our body from just food packaging. Okay, shrink wrap seal around a piece of raw meat, takeout containers filled with restaurant leftovers, plastic bottles filled with soft drinks. These are just a few types of food packaging that surround humans every day. And a new study released Monday shows the chemical toll of all that wrapping and how it affects the human body. Researchers from Switzerland and other countries discovered that roughly 14,000 known chemicals in food packaging, 3,600 or so one, are about 25% have been found in the human body, whether in samples of blood, hair, or breast milk. So we are surrounded by alchemists, chemists, sorcerers, and who not only use these but make their living and protect their wealth using these chemicals for a variety of reasons. This is why we have zero trust in, the big drug companies, right? And that certainly is not something that we support or endorse in any way, shape, or form. The more we learn about the medical profession and all of the various compromises that are being done there, the farther away we want to be from that. And we certainly don't want to support it or encourage it in any way. And so I do think that there's a great big awakening going on right now about these things and how they compromise the body. And if you think it was only one thing, you are mistaken. It is all across the board on pharma. It is an all-out effort to contaminate the human genome, to contaminate the body. So I don't care what you're giving them. If it's coming from these guys, it's suspicious stuff. And there's more again. This kind of stuff is coming out now. Many of you didn't realize that when you were signing up and joining some of these groups or joining in with certain channels that are monetized online. I've talked about this before. Monetization is basically human trafficking. You're trafficking people and you're making a deal with Google to do it, or whoever's paying you. May as well be OnlyFans. The FTC study finds vast surveillance of social media users. Why is this happening? Well, in order to be able to sell this to advertisers, they have to drill down. And so as we are, as a business, for example, wants to advertise and wants to target specific people, in order for that advertiser to deliver that matrix of information, they've got to know it, which means they've got to snoop on you in order to know which one of you might be looking for a new car or who wants insurance or what have you. The Federal Trade Commission said on Thursday it found that several social media and streaming services engaged in vast surveillance of consumers, including minors, collecting and sharing more personal information than most users realize. The findings come from a study of how 9 companies, including Meta, YouTube, TikTok, collected and used consumer data. The sites, which mostly offer free services, when the services are free, you're usually the product, profited off the data by feeding it into advertising that targets specific users. So the content creators are basically traffickers by demographics. So they separate by content. That's a fancy word for saying we put you in categories. According to the report, the company also failed to protect users, especially children and teens. The FTC said it began its study nearly 4 years ago to offer the first holistic look into the opaque business practices of some of the biggest online platforms that have created multi-billion-dollar ad businesses using private information. Look at this. They call it consumer data. Well, you know what that is? That's your business. Whenever you see the words consumer data, they figured out what you're up to or what you're about to do. You're looking for a car. You're looking for this. And again, if you're looking for certain things and you are in the market, it's certainly helpful. But the very fact that they're constantly watching you is kind of the creepy part. So kind of like some 70s love songs. Suddenly you listen to those lyrics and you go, wait a minute, that's kind of creepy. Right? You know, I like dreaming because dreaming can make you mine. It's a stalker song. Things we sang, I tell you, the things we sang. Hey, here's a kind of an Sorry about that. The ancient sword from the era of Moses, the book of Exodus, is incurred in Egypt. I think I mentioned this last week, but I wanted to mention it again because I just thought it was really awesome. I think the first story of this came out, and it came out again. Egypt archaeologists recently found an ancient sword belonging to the military of Ramses II, the pharaoh that scholars believe was referenced in the book of Exodus. So that was really fascinating. And this sword is actually a bronze sword from the time of Moshe in the book of Exodus. It was found during a recent dig in Egypt. And of course, they found some additional artifacts. Fascinating article, guys. Definitely go over and read that. Really, really interesting stuff. And look at that sword. It's still glimmering. I mean, that's kind of interesting that it's like survived that long. And wow, that's crazy. So it bears the symbol of King Ramses II, over 3,000 years old. So looks like the Bible is true. How about that? There's actual archaeological evidence to confirm the scriptures are telling you the truth. Isn't that wonderful? Aren't you encouraged by that? Don't you love that we can take comfort in what has been recorded? And yes, there are certainly things that we're learning in this hour. We're certainly being challenged. I know many of you are looking at some of these headlines, and if you're like me, you're vexed by the filthy compensation of the wicked. I know many of you are. And I think many of you are also realizing that our time is short and that any minute now this could really get very nasty. And that's why I want to encourage you, while you have a moment in this time, take the time to love one another. Take the time to tell one another how important you all are, how much we love one another. I love you all, the end. Like nothing to add to that. I just love you, the end. There's nothing to, no disclaimers. And I believe that we need to have that kind of just simple love one for another. I believe that's what he commanded us to do. And if you love Messiah, if you are one of his, if you are choosing to follow him in this hour, then remember love. One of the things that I'm encouraged about, as we learn so many things the last few years, my goodness. If the last few years are any indication of the things that we're going to learn in the next few years, well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we got a lot to learn. And that certainly would look like the case. But he continues to encourage us, to cause us to bind our hearts together in love. And that is what the scripture promised would happen. So I encourage all of you to continue being steadfast wherever you are, wherever he's assigned you, whatever place he's put you, be found faithful there. After all, remember, anyone who touches the plow and turns back, well, according to the scripture, they're not fit for the kingdom. So let us be found faithful, every one of us, wherever he's assigned us, even if it's a difficult place. Let us finish well. Well, that's it for tonight. That's tonight's report. I pray that it has been a barakah to you. We try to make these a barakah, but we can't always control that. We certainly hope it is for you. And certainly pray that his barakah is upon you and your household, wherever you are, in the name of Messiah. Amen and amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us. May Elohim bless each and every one of you. Good night.